Because now I think you've just entered another very important aspect in trying to fight public sector corruption. Now, what should the clerics be saying to such people? Because once upon a time, the religious clerics in the mosque, in the churches, they try and as much as possible to speak out against such vices and ills, even right before your presence, and they even bar and even ostracize some of the people from the churches and even some other religious places. Are we still doing that?
No, the reverse is the case now. If you stay, you run to the church or the mosque, where the clergy people will now bless you, pray for you, and ask God to forgive you when you have not even done restitution. The forgiveness comes after you have restricted what you have stolen or what you have done. You are still having you have taken this my file, and I was asking you to give me my file. You have not given me my file. You run to the church to pray. Until you give me my file, that is where the basis of asking for forgiveness begins. You see from all the present leaders, the former leaders running to churches, they donate money to build churches, they do tithe and all that. And the people, they have stolen the money that would have been used to build roads, to build houses for the people, to build, do education so that our children will go to school and they acquire education the way we have done. Today, certificates from Nigeria are no longer respected. Of the 100,000 best universities in the world, none came from Nigeria. And so we are saying we are celebrating people who are doing. So the issue is that the clergymen, the imams and all that have lost contact with what the leaders of the Christianity, like Christ and the Islamic religion, came for. They came for the poor. The basis of Christ coming was, he said he has come to set the captive free and give respite to the poor, to the widows, to the oppressed, and all that. That's not what the churches are doing today. It's not the same war that Muhammad fought for the oppressed people, for the poor people, for the widows. That
that's one aspect in our society that we just don't want to talk about. If truly the imams and the Christian leaders and the Muslim leaders have not spoken up against this ill in our society, corruption, and truly when some things go wrong like this, they still come before you and do some kind of thanksgiving, maybe as an ex-convict, and no one speaks about it, then who are you to say, well, they were wrong, when the religious leader has actually given the go-ahead?
Well, what saved other societies, like in the Latin Americans, people we call the liberation theologists. You recall that in Philippines, there was one man, a cardinal of the Catholic Church. His name was Cardinal Sin of Malina. He was celebrating Mass as a Catholic pontiff, and he was discussing the iniquitous regime of Ferdinand Marcos. And at the time, he began to ask himself, what does it mean that we are celebrating Mass here and discussing about the corruption of a man, and there's nothing practically we're doing? He lifted the sacristy and said, move to the government house. And every other person followed him until they went to government house. Ferdinand Marcos ran away from the place. They arrested him. He was prosecuted. And that was how they saved that society. How many of our clergy men and women are doing those things today? How many of the imams are doing it today? So if you begin to encourage people who commit impunity, who commit corruption, it becomes, a system. It becomes a way of life of the people. And so people cannot change.
Now, what we're looking at, the focus has been public sector corruption. Is it that when people get there, there's just, bags of money for them to steal? Or, there is a system that, you can manipulate? Are we doing enough to curb the systems that people can manipulate to milk us dry?
We have not done anything. If you go to the 1999 Constitution, Section 308, it gives the governors, the deputy governors, the president, the vice president, the power to commit all kinds of crimes and impunities, all kinds of corruptions while in office.
The Constitution empowers them to be corrupt?
Go and read the immunity clause. What is it all about?
Oh,
if
the
Ibuchukwu is the governor of Enugu State, where I come from, or Lagos State, where I live, or any part of Nigeria, throughout the period of 4 years that I will remain as a governor, or 80 years, nobody will, if I kill anybody, nobody will, they will investigate
between the 4 and 8 years, I mean, it doesn't mean that they're governors or presidents forever. after they've left office, people can start proceedings against them, can they?
How many of them that have left office have been that have been prosecuted?
So should we not ask why? Is the
we're already asking? That's why we are here. We're asking why. But you see, no matter the beautiful document you have produced, because I am one of the people that have been asking for sovereign national conference, do this, do that. But I have come to think again. If you produce the best document in the world and you get the worst character to implement such document, what will it come to? So let us begin to, revalue ourselves, to look at characters. Because when we are talking about building strong institutions, the first thing is to do a good law. The second thing is to have characters, the refined characters, characters that are godly, that will man those institutions. If you put the like of Ibuchukwu Ezike, who doesn't respect people, who is corrupt, and who violates the rights of people with impunity, there's nothing you can achieve from such institutions. Strong institutions are built by good laws and good characters. But what you find in Nigeria is that if somebody was a thief yesterday who was arrested, look at all the appointments they are making. Do you know that we were told that they were going to get people from overseas to take control of Nigeria? So what have we? In those days, the IMF and World Bank were coming to have agents in Nigeria, in Africa, or in the third world, to convince them to buy into their iniquitous programs. Now they are sending their agents. The Minister of Finance is the agent. The Minister of Trade and Investment is their agent, and so on and so forth. So these are people. They are no longer sending, getting people here to begin to talk to government and these officials. They are now getting themselves appointed into the office and to begin to siphon our resources to those places.
I think these are not founded on facts. I mean, what proof?
What are you saying proof?
What proof do we have? Because you're making, this is a very strong allegation.
When Professor Konde-Iweala was Minister of Finance, do you know how much we paid to Paris and the London clubs?
Do you know how much we also got relief from?
Which relief? Which relief?
We did not get relief as a country.
Relief for what?
From debt.
Which debt?
That we owed.
My sister, if you borrow this money from me, and say you are going to build housing estate for your family, and at the end of the day, the housing estate was not built and the money was not found, who do you hold responsible? Your family that you borrowed the money on their behalf, or yourself?
It was borrowed on behalf of a country.
That
is how it operates.
Was the money used for the benefit of the country? Was it used for the purpose for which it was borrowed?
So your point is that if money is borrowed on behalf of a country by a head of state or by a sitting president, the president should pay back, regardless of whether that or not that person.
If you had borrowed money and used the money for...
The money was borrowed on behalf. When the president acts, he doesn't act for himself. He acts on behalf of a country.
And the money was not used on behalf.
So if the country is now paying back for money that was never spent on it, shouldn't the country hold that person responsible?
That's what I ask. What I'm saying.
That's the question.
Instead of asking us to pay,
is it the World Bank that will ask that question for you, or the country, the people in the country will ask?
Both will ask the questions. Exactly. Because if World Bank gives you loan to do a project, they monitor the implementation of that project. You are not just giving loan. They give you loan to build schools. They monitor how you build schools. Like when we were in the university, you know what World Bank and IMF told IBB government to do? To sack all the lecturers who were teaching what they were not paid to teach, to reduce the number of graduates in Nigeria, and then that was the period they began to increase school fees, and in our own school, they increased school fees from 40 naira to 70 naira, and we fought against it. That was when we have National Association of Nigerian Students and activists on campuses. Today, activists, the so-called NAS, have become an arm of ruling government. They now conduct their conventions in Eagle Squares and in government houses. Unlike in our days when we conduct in the school, in the campuses. And when we win elections, when we finish elections, the people we visit, we go to CLO, we go to CDHR, we go to Late Ganifayemi, we go to Late Bekorason, and so on, other active Nigerian Labour Congress. Today, when NANS officials emerge, the so-called NANS officials, they end up in government houses and that's a rock. Is that how we can change a society? Because Suleiman was asking questions on when did this thing start? How do the society is being corrupted thoroughly?
Can we go back to the homes? Can we start from the homes? Because some of these people who are occupying public positions are coming from homes. What happens to the family structure, to the homes? What are they doing about it?
That one is also entirely destroyed. You know, when we were in primary school, if I commit an offense, my class teacher would beat me. If I cried to the house, my father would beat me. My elder ones would beat me. My uncle would beat me. They would send me back. You know, but today, if I misbehave, a neighbor will caution me and report me to my parents. And my parents will ask him or her, what did you do when he misbehaved? Today, don't touch my child. You know, so how can children in those days were children of everybody. They were children of the society. Today, we are no longer producing children who are children of the society.
Well, you say we haven't started. Sorry to butt in there. In closing, what can we do to start up this whole fight against corruption?
Well, we can do a lot. The civil society community to where I belong will begin to talk, begin to organize. Because in other society, people talk about America. People died for America to become what it is today. If you recall in 1883, when the labor leaders were hanged at May Square in Chicago, they were the people who were fighting against the man hour in offices, which all of us are enjoying today. It was 12 hours in those days. Now we're enjoying 8 hours. People died for us to enjoy this 8 hours. Increment all the kind of welfare packages for the labor movement. And so one of them said, before they were being hanged, Augustus Pye, he said, this thing you are doing to stop people, from doing what we are doing, you are, making it a worldwide issue. And so what we have to do is to begin to organize, begin to unite, and chase these people out of power. In 2015, elect credible people who will take over.